classified as a fourth felony offender. Offense second-degree murder. Sentencing date October 20th, 1976. Sentenced to natural life at hard labor. Parole date is April 29th, 2016. Good time, none. Full term is life. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Juengain. How are you?
I'm all right, ma'am.
My name is Bonnie Jackson. I will be conducting your interview this morning. So I just want to talk to you and find out a little bit about you, all right?
All right.
How old are you?
I'm 68 years old.
68? And how long have you been incarcerated?
I've been 45 years, 45 years a month.
All right. So you were 23 when this crime was committed?
Yes, ma'am.
I see that at one point you were convicted of second-degree murder. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I see at one point you had 2 counts of second-degree murder, and one of them was dismissed. Is that correct?
That's right, ma'am.
Could you tell us just a little bit about what happened in the second-degree murder case? What happened? Tell me how it happened.
It was an accident, you know. I really went. I catch seizures, you know, and I guess I went to a seizure or something, you know. It was an accident, you know. You know that the murder happened. But it's something in my family. Is in my family, my sister, you know. It was an accident, you know. That's all I can say, you know. I know I got sick, went to a seizure. I catch seizures. On this phone with grandma.
Okay, what does a seizure have to do with killing someone? Because you have to.
I had the gun in my hand, I think, you know.
Okay, but why did you have the gun in your hand?
I don't know, ma'am.
And who was killed?
My sister was shot, you know.
And who was the other person whose case got dismissed?
The other person's name is Olden Pillsbury, you know.
And who is that?
Oh, that's a dude. I don't know who that is there, you know. That's a charge they gave me, you know.
But they ended up dismissing it, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And you went to trial, you pled not guilty by reason of insanity, and you were found guilty of second-degree murder, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a history of mental illness?
Well, you know, I catch seizures, you know, it's true, you know.
Well, seizures are not mental illness.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you know, I was seeing a psychiatrist and stuff on the streets when I was out there.
What were you seeing a psychiatrist for? What did they tell you had?
I was talking to him, you know, asked me, you know, if I was, you know, feel depressed down, stuff like that. I was telling him, you know, sometimes I feel depressed, sometimes I don't feel depressed.
Mr. Juengain, you have had well over 1,000 disciplinary write-ups over the 45 years that you've been in prison. Over 1,000. I've never seen a person with that many write-ups ever. So can you help us understand why you got so many write-ups?
Well, the people at that time when I went to Camp J in 78, when I went to Camp J up Big Yard in 78, they didn't like me or something. I don't know why they didn't like me. They write me up 700 write-ups, bro, 500 write-ups in one day, bro. And I ain't never had no bust head. I ain't never had no broke arm. I ain't never no broke finger, bro, no broke leg, no broke toe, and never lies, bro. It wasn't never lies, bro. I ain't never had no bust head in my life, bro.
Well, what is that? What would your having a busted head or a broken leg or arm?
That what they were doing, breaking dudes' arms and busting their head and stuff with sticks and stuff, you know. I ain't never had that done to me. But they write me up, lie on me, and write me up 700-800 times in one day, bro. And there wasn't no lies, bro. But I ain't had no write-up. I ain't had no write-up since then, bro.
You had a write-up in February of 2019. What was that about?
February 2019. I can't go, man. I can't recall that, you know.
Okay. Why are you in lockdown?
I don't know why they put me in a lockdown, you know. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you why they put me in there.
No idea whatsoever?
I didn't hear you.
No idea whatsoever why.
I ain't got no idea why they put me in a lockdown.
How long have you been in extended lockdown?
And it's still lockdown for I see about 9 or 10 years, you know.
And they never explained to you why you were in extended lockdown?
No, I just went on the board and they sent me to a dormitory, but it's up to the warden, the okay to send me to the dormitory.
Are you on any kind of medication for mental illness?
I take a nerve medicine for my nerve, and I take a Benadryl for my nerve, and I take a dilanthal Bartone for epilepsy,
Okay,
high blood pills,
okay.
vitamins.
Where are you from, Mr. Jernigan?
Well, my mother was staying in Saint Jean, Paris, but at a certain age, she moved to New Orleans.
Right. Well, but is your mother still living?
So my mother buried out there in St. James. She was the oldest child. Or
Is
the
your mother-
oldest children, yeah, she was the oldest child.
Is your mother still living?
But
Is
she deceased.
she passed away?
She passed away.
All right. And what about other family members? Where do you have other family members?
I got a sister in California, you know, and she was tell the people that she's gonna take care of me, you know. I ain't gonna get no trouble or nothing with no more. You know.
How old is your sister?
She's 73 years old.
And what kind of health is she in?
Huh?
What kind of health is she in?
Well, she had a while back, she had a heart attack. She told me on the phone, she told me she had heart attacks, you know, she got to take her sugar, stuff like that.
Well, how is she going to be able to take care of you? What kind of income
Her,
are you going to have?
you know, when I was down the streets, I was getting disability. By me catch epilepsy and stuff, I was getting disability checks. Food stamps and stuff like that, I was getting that.
Okay.
I go back out there, I'm gonna get back on it again.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Jernigan. I'd like to speak with the person with mental health and ask, could you tell us something about his diagnosis and why he's in extended lockdown?
Mr. Jernigan is diagnosed with major neurotic cognitive disorder.
What does that mean?
It's similar to personality disorder, anti-personality disorder. It has a lot to do with his behavior. He has an issue with impulse control and making clear judgments in relationship to what he needs to do. He last saw our psychiatrist on April 23rd, 2021. And at that time, he appeared to be doing well. He's taking his medications. He was on suicide watch, but not recently. His most recent suicide watch was September 25th of 2020. And
why was he on suicide watch?
it appears as though the notes that I've read from the social worker who placed him on suicide watch was due to him being depressed and feeling suicidal. So as a precaution, we place individuals on suicide watch to prevent harm to themselves or either to others.
Besides the personality disorder that you spoke of, does he have any other mental illness diagnosis, schizophrenia,
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Just
do
been
you know why he's on extended lockdown?
Oh, no, ma'am, I'm sorry, I wouldn't be privy to that
He
information.
AU in, he came in AU as a, extended lockdown person, and he never he went out one time back in 82. He came out to go to the dormitory, and he, stayed out for maybe a month, and then he went back into lockdown status. And he's been there ever since.
Was that because of the disciplinary write-ups?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is Warden Falgood. Yes,
Yes.
correct. And like she's saying, in January of '82, he made it to a dormitory for a brief moment. Since then, he's had some sporadic where he's worked his way out of extended. To a working cell block. Looking at his history here, he would stay out in that working cell block from a day to, I think I saw one where he was out for a couple of months in a working cell block, and then he would go back into extended behind a disciplinary write-up.
So he seems to have trouble getting along with other inmates as well as following instructions of the prison personnel?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yeah, looking at his past, it looks like in 2010, June of 2010 was the last time that he made his way out to a working cell block, and that was on one day, and he got another write-up and got put back into administrative seg.
Could you tell me anything about the disciplinary action from February 22nd of 19 while he was still in extended lockdown? What was that about, if you can tell me?
So that write-up was a Rule 19 self-mutilation. On the above date and approximate time, while making rounds on Hawk, it was noticed that offender Michael Jernigan had caused a laceration on his left hand from punching a wall, which caused it to bleed profusely. He was seen by medical at the treatment center and placed on a standard watch by mental health and returned back to his housing area on administrative seg.
Is there anything else you can tell us about him?
No, ma'am, not really.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the information.
Sure.
Ms. Renata, that's all I have.
Thank you. Warden Falgood, I do have a question of you. Mr. Jernigan mentioned when he was speaking to Ms. Jackson that he just recently went on a board.
Yeah, there's one
On a cell block review board.
and it's up to the warden to send it down to us.
Well, I guess he
Okay.
indicated he was recommended for a step down. So I just was trying to confirm that.
Yeah, Warden Sanders is in here, and he has done that. So he has
Okay.
recommended him to a dormitory at this point in time. He's been without a write-up for 2 years, so we're going to give him another shot.
Okay. So I think I'm addressing my colleagues and you, Warden Falgood. Because of his extended lockdown status, I was under the impression that was for mental health reasons, but I think what I've heard put forth today is really that's all based about his disciplinary and conduct record, in addition to the mental health. So technically, he's not really eligible for consideration by us until he is out of that housing status for a period of 6 months. So I'm really glad to hear that he has been recommended by Warden Sanders to step down, maybe and have another shot at being in a dormitory situation. So really, I don't know that we can vote on him today because technically he's not eligible. And I don't know, I guess he can hear me. I want to be sure he understands that as well.
I have changed to help a lot though.
Sir, Mr. Jernigan,
I hear you. I hear you, ma'am.
you heard what I said. Because of you, I'm glad to hear that you've been recommended. You went to the board and you've been recommended to go to a dormitory. And I'm hoping that that gets approved for you and that you can go to the dormitory and you do well. You say you're doing better, right?
Yeah, I have changed to help a lot. You know, I told my sister, I'll change out if I make parole, I don't want to fool nobody that do wrong doing out on the streets. Nothing.
Well, I'm glad to
Thanks
hear
a
that.
lot.
But once you go to the dormitory and you're successful in the dormitory for at least 6 months, then perhaps we can see you again and consider you for parole. You understand?
So when I go back up again, then when I come up again on parole again.
We're gonna monitor you. We'll put you back up as soon as you're eligible, but you got to do good in the dorm. You can't get in any trouble at all. None.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Well, we'll see you when we can.
All right.
Good luck to you, sir.
All right.
Okay, so how do we unpack this? We do have the court transcript and the appeal, which we'll go over. I think there's a few things to talk about here. One is it seems clear that he's needs to be locked up his whole life. The question you might ask, or at least I'm asking, is whether it's in a prison like Angola or if it's in a psych ward. You know, you listen to the diagnosis and, you know, I don't know what to make of it, but you could also assume that putting anyone in solitary for so long will only make things worse. And I guess this is part of the whole bigger debate of where you house certain people. Thank you, Claire, for bringing this up. And then Richard also had it in the spreadsheet already, but he was charged he was only charged for unaliving his sister, but he did have a second. We don't have the details on it, but there is a second case where he had unalived 2 people, but the DA didn't try him for the second one. We don't have information on it. It could be simply that the DA didn't want to waste the resources, being that they got one guilty verdict. But someone who takes their own sister's life and blames it on a seizure, it's like, okay. Over 1,000 write-ups. We had never, as Mr. Natsa said, yeah, we had never seen that. 1,000. Over 1,000 write-ups. And his answer to it was that he got like 600 or 700 of it in one day, which of course is, you know, impossible. But I yeah, what am I supposed to say? It's like, I guess this is the question of whether he should even be in Angola versus like a mental ward. But here it is, June 6, 1976. The grand jury of Orleans Parish charged in 2 counts with February 26, 1976, and second degree of 2 people, his sister and someone else. So he did take 2 lives. February 4, 1977, the count involving Pierce was Noel Prost, and the prosecution proceeded with just Catherine. And again, why, we don't have those details. But, you know, again, they probably just said, let's just go with one that we can get and put him away for life. A plea of not guilty and not guilty by reason of insanity was entered by the defendant. And after the trial by jury, October 13, 1976, the defendant was found guilty as charged. He was sentenced to serve the balance of his natural life at hard labor. A contention is made on appeal that the trial judge committed an error, prejudicial error, in denying the defense motion for a mistrial because of prosecutors' remarks in a rebuttal argument. Defense counsel asserts that although no mention was made of the defendant, that the portion of the argument objected to the record. So I read through this, and basically what happened is that the prosecution made a statement that said none of the witnesses that came up today had a criminal record, and that's because only the and he didn't take the stand in his own defense, and the defense said, whoa, what kind of statement is that? You can't just say no no one took the stand today that doesn't have a criminal record, you're insinuating that he didn't take the stand on his own defense, and that's illegal. You can't do that. And the judge said that that wasn't okay. Now, of course, no one who took the stand today had a criminal record. So that didn't come out, but I'm giving that as an example. I don't know. It was difficult for the jury to understand from such an argument that the defendant had failed to testify on his own behalf. Accordingly, the defense contention is not well founded. And I kind of disagree. I would say it's like you should, it sucks to do a mistrial and all that cost over something silly that looks like he was clearly going to be found guilty no matter what. But it is a dumb thing for a prosecution to say. It's like, what's the point? You're holding a full deck. You have the royal flush. You're going to get the guilty verdict. Why say something that can cause a mistrial? Richard then shared there was another. I'm just not going to go through it, but there was like a class action suit where they were suing, saying that they should be in a mental ward and not in Angola, and that the treatments in Angola were inhumane, and it's then there's text on that and an appeal. I'll drop it in the link, but it's of course it wasn't found in their favor. But I was told that being in a psych ward ain't a walk in the park either, that it's a pretty miserable place to be. But for someone like him, it might be much preferred. You could see I think that she classified him as antisocial, or she tried to, but I think what she meant to say is antisocial diagnosis, but she said something else. Anyways, it's obviously, to me, in my opinion, somebody needs to be locked up for the rest of their life. Whether it's a psych ward or not, that's a different question. But man, scary. That's all I can say. That is scary. But thank you again, Claire and Richard. And with that, I'll let you go.